In this episode, we are going to take training beyond attendance and turn it into something a security program can manage, improve, and defend, monitoring, evaluating, and reporting training effectiveness with meaningful evidence. Beginners often think training effectiveness is the same as completion, meaning if people finished a course then training worked. But completion only proves exposure, not learning, and not behavior change. A mature security program treats training like any other control. It sets a purpose, defines expected outcomes, gathers evidence, and adjusts when results are weak. Meaningful evidence is evidence that can show whether people changed how they make security-related decisions, not just whether they watch content. It also needs to show where training is working and where it is not, because training should not be treated as a single event that you assume is equally effective for all roles. Monitoring and evaluation allow you to see patterns, such as which groups are struggling, which messages are not landing, and which processes may be the real root cause rather than knowledge gaps. Reporting then translates that evidence into decision-ready information for stakeholders, so leaders can invest, adjust priorities, and reinforce expectations. This is not about making training look good. It is about proving training reduces risk and improves resilience in a way the organization can trust. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at cyber.author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. A practical starting point is to define what training effectiveness means, because you cannot measure what you have not defined. Effectiveness is the degree to which training produces the behavior and decision outcomes the organization needs, such as faster reporting of suspicious activity, fewer risky access approvals, improved handling of sensitive data, or more consistent escalation of security concerns. These outcomes should be role-based, because executives, managers, system owners, and general employees each influence security in different ways. Beginners sometimes define effectiveness as general awareness, but awareness is too vague to measure and too weak to justify investment. A better definition ties effectiveness to specific decisions that matter. If a training program exists to reduce social engineering success, effectiveness might mean increased reporting and reduced successful compromise. If a program exists to improve access governance, effectiveness might mean improved access review quality and fewer excessive privileges. If a program exists to strengthen incident readiness, effectiveness might mean faster triage and better coordination behaviors. Clear definitions also help you avoid misleading metrics, because you will choose evidence that matches the intended outcome rather than choosing whatever is easiest to count. When effectiveness is defined clearly, you can design monitoring that is purposeful instead of noisy. Monitoring is the ongoing collection of signals that indicate how training is performing, and beginners should learn that good monitoring blends multiple signal types. Some signals are direct, like assessments and quizzes, which can show whether learners retained key concepts. Some signals are behavioral, like whether employees report suspicious messages, whether managers follow access approval expectations, or whether teams follow incident reporting procedures. Some signals are operational, like whether security-related errors decrease in certain workflows or whether common mistakes recur. The point of monitoring is not to watch everything. It is to maintain enough visibility that you can detect improvement or drift. A common beginner mistake is to monitor only completion and quiz scores, but those are weak indicators because people can pass quizzes without changing behavior. A better approach treats quizzes as one small piece of evidence, useful for basic comprehension, while relying on behavior and operational outcomes to confirm real change. Monitoring should also consider timing, because behavior change may take time and may require reinforcement. If monitoring is continuous, you can see whether improvement persists or fades. Persistence matters because a short-term spike in attention is not the same as durable habit. Evaluation is the step where you interpret monitoring signals and decide whether training is producing meaningful improvement, and this is where careful reasoning matters. Evaluation should ask whether changes are truly connected to training or whether other factors may be driving the results. For instance, if reporting increases right after training, that may indicate training improved awareness and confidence, but you should also consider whether a public incident or leadership message influenced behavior. If mistakes decrease, you should consider whether a process change or tool improvement also contributed. Beginners sometimes assume any improvement must be due to training, but evaluation requires skepticism and context. It also requires looking at segments rather than only overall averages. If overall reporting increased, but one high-risk group did not improve, the training may be ineffective for that group. Evaluation should also examine quality, not just quantity. For example, increased reporting is helpful, but if reports are low quality and vague, training may need to emphasize what information to include. Similarly, access reviews may happen more often, but if reviews are superficial, training may need to improve decision quality. Evaluation is about understanding what the evidence actually says and what it implies for next steps. Meaningful evidence often comes from tying training outcomes to control behaviors that can be observed, because behavior is what reduces risk. For example, if the organization wants employees to report suspicious messages, evidence can include reporting volume, reporting speed, and the proportion of reports that are accurate and actionable. If the organization wants managers to make better access decisions, evidence can include access approval patterns, frequency of exceptions, and reduction of excessive access over time. If the organization wants system owners to maintain baselines, evidence can include baseline compliance trends and reduction of repeat configuration weaknesses. Beginners sometimes worry that behavior evidence is hard to collect, but many organizations already collect operational data that can serve as evidence if it is interpreted correctly. The key is to connect evidence to the training objective and to ensure the evidence is reliable. Reliable evidence is evidence that is collected consistently and is not easily distorted by people trying to make numbers look good. This is why combining multiple evidence types is useful. If one metric is gamed, others can reveal the mismatch. Meaningful evidence tells a coherent story that matches reality on the ground. Another important evaluation concept is leading versus lagging indicators, because training effectiveness often needs both. Lagging indicators tell you what happened after the fact, such as the number of incidents caused by human error. Leading indicators tell you whether future risk is decreasing, such as improved reporting behavior or improved adherence to processes. Lagging indicators can be powerful, but are often influenced by many variables, making them less precise for training evaluation alone. Leading indicators can be more directly tied to training because they reflect behaviors the training targeted. For example, training designed to improve reporting should be evaluated primarily with reporting behaviors, not solely with the number of incidents. A beginner mistake is to judge training by incident counts alone, because incident counts can rise even if training improved, such as when better reporting reveals issues that were previously hidden. In that case, an increase in reported incidents could be a sign of improvement in detection and transparency rather than failure. This is why interpretation matters. You must understand what a metric truly represents. Evaluation should therefore be cautious and context-aware. When you use a balanced set of indicators, your conclusions become more accurate and defensible. Reporting training effectiveness is the step where evidence becomes usable for leadership decisions, and reporting must match stakeholder needs. Executives generally need a concise view that connects training to risk reduction, resilience, and organizational outcomes, not a detailed spreadsheet of quiz scores. Managers often need segment-level insights that show how their teams are performing and what reinforcement is needed. Security and compliance partners may need more detail about evidence quality and trends over time. A common beginner mistake is to report training results as a list of completion percentages and then claim success. But that does not help decision-making because it does not show whether behavior changed. A stronger report explains what outcomes were expected, what evidence was collected, what changed, and what is recommended next. It also highlights gaps, such as segments that did not improve or behaviors that remain weak, because those gaps drive future training and process changes. Reporting should avoid blame language, because blame reduces reporting and cooperation. Instead, reporting should frame gaps as improvement opportunities and should propose realistic actions. When reporting is calm and evidence-based, it builds trust because stakeholders see that training is being managed, not performed as theater. Another piece of meaningful reporting is connecting training effectiveness to resource decisions, because training programs compete with other priorities. If evidence shows that training improved reporting and reduced response time, leaders may support more investment or broader rollout. If evidence shows little behavior change, leaders may decide to adjust the approach, change the delivery method, or invest in process improvements instead. Beginners sometimes treat training as inherently good and therefore not subject to scrutiny, but scrutiny is how programs improve. Evidence-based reporting allows leaders to make trade-offs openly rather than relying on assumptions. It also protects the security program from unrealistic expectations because it demonstrates what training can and cannot do. For example, if training did not improve behavior because a process is confusing, the report can highlight that process change is needed, not more training. This prevents the organization from wasting effort repeating training while leaving root causes untouched. Reporting, therefore, serves as a steering mechanism for the program, helping leaders allocate effort where it produces real risk reduction. A program that can steer is a program that matures. Finally, training effectiveness must be managed over time, because behavior change can fade and organizational change can introduce new needs. Monitoring should continue after initial rollout to see whether improvements persist, and evaluation should look for signs of decay, such as reporting rates dropping back to baseline or repeated mistakes returning. When decay appears, the program may need refreshers, targeted reinforcement, or process improvements. Organizational changes like new tools, new workflows, or new vendor relationships can also change what people need to know, making old training less relevant. A mature program updates training content based on evidence from incidents, near misses, and user feedback, while keeping core messages stable enough to build habit. It also ensures new employees receive onboarding training so the program does not rely on one-time campaigns. Governance supports this by assigning ownership for training content, delivery, monitoring, and reporting, ensuring the program continues even as people change roles. Beginners sometimes imagine that once training is built, the job is done, but training is a control that must be maintained like any other control. Maintenance is what makes training contribute to long-term security maturity. In conclusion, monitoring, evaluating, and reporting training effectiveness with meaningful evidence is about treating training as a managed security control that must produce observable behavior change and measurable improvement. Effectiveness should be defined in terms of specific role-based outcomes, then monitored through a blend of comprehension signals, behavior signals, and operational signals that reflect real decisions. Evaluation requires context-aware interpretation, segment-level analysis, and attention to both leading and lagging indicators so conclusions are accurate and defensible. Reporting should translate evidence into decision-ready insights for stakeholders, focusing on outcomes, trends, gaps, and recommended actions rather than only completion statistics. Evidence-based reporting supports resource decisions and prevents training from becoming a checkbox activity that consumes time without reducing risk. Over time, ongoing monitoring and governance keep training relevant, reinforce behavior, and adapt to organizational change. When training effectiveness is measured and managed with this discipline, the organization gains confidence that training investments are improving security behavior in a durable way, and that confidence is what turns training into a true pillar of security program success.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit BareMetalCyber.com.